Hey there, I'm back in from testing and start off with the Gerber Strongarm. Fixed blade knife. The Gerber Strongarm is probably one of the best fixed blade knife packages you can get today. It's truly a matter of like the sum being greater than the parts. For the price, which is about $50 in America or $100 in Australia, maybe less. There are very few knives that I've handled that sort of give you that same feeling of confidence, especially after I've put the knife through some pretty nasty testing today. It's sort of written all over the blade there, which remains whole. First thing to address is the steel, I suppose. There's no getting around the fact that 420 HC is sort of seen as a budget steel. But that's more when you think of it from a pocket knife perspective, like when you think of it as a bad steel. Sure, it's always budget, but when you think of it as a bad steel, yeah, pocket knives, yeah, you're probably not having the best pocket knife if it's made out of 420 HC. But what's good for a pocket knife and what's good for a fixed blade is different and that's quite apparent when you actually put it through a bit of testing and you see that this steel held up really well. It didn't warp, didn't bend, didn't twist. I put it through some pretty knotty, horrible wood, which you can see in the previous video. And I stuck it into a tree, bent it about an inch into the tip, and it just pried off the outer and inner bark, unlike another one of the steels that bent and then broke. Being about the same level in. So I really can't knock 420 as a fixed blade steel. It's definitely shown toughness. The edge, the factory edge was never remarkable on this knife, but even now it's still what I would call a working edge, which is all I really ask for a hard use survival knife to come with. You can always sharpen it yourself. You're always going to be sharpening it yourself unless you're planning on never using it. So the steel, I'm happy with. The handle, well, the handle is above reproach. The grip was a bit intense, I thought, at the beginning, and it is pretty grippy. It's got this really aggressive diamond style coating on it there. But I think mainly, if you think of the purpose of this knife, it is definitely just it's mainly a soldier's knife or a hard use utility knife. So I guess you want that, like if you needed to stick or stab it in something, you don't want your hand shooting up on it. And I used gloves in the test with this knife, but then I did a side-by-side with the Falkniven where I didn't use gloves, and I think whether or not you get used to it or whether or not these sort of soften as they warm up perhaps as well, it ended up feeling really comfortable. I love when a knife doesn't force you to hold it a certain way. You can sort of see my hand kind of just wraps around it however I want. My fingertips kind of go into the groove on the other side. But you can, yeah, steer yourself around however you want. There's no guiding lines. The knife carries exceptionally well. It looks great. Has a really good balance in the hand. Feels quite nimble. I think I mentioned in my impression review. Probably due to its combat type origins, I guess, or combat purpose of use. From the company anyway, it does feel really nimble and dexterous. Like the balance is definitely either in the middle or perhaps slightly towards the handle. So it did, most of the tasks as you would expect from a knife that's a mid-sized survival knife. Like you want it to be good enough at everything. You don't expect it to be an amazing wood carver. You don't expect it to be an amazing chopper, but you expect that if it was the one knife you had, it'd do all those things you needed to, and it did. The weakest it was probably at was chopping, which is just a little bit too light. Please watch the previous video. It's like a 30 odd minute video, but it's of me testing this and the other two Gerber fixed blade knives. You can see all the actual research. Not research. It sounds like I'm a scientist. I'm really not. It's definitely not scientific research. It's just definitely me dicking around with a knife in the bush. But this one survived my arse hattery enough to be able to be recommended by a Gumby like me. The sheath is really good too. I did end up quite enjoying the dangler sort of system when I wore it for the rest of the day. I did a fair bit of walking in it, and it does dangle. It's like a bushcraft style knife, so that's cool. I haven't got the piece to be able to add the back. It came with the clip, but I don't have one of those molly sticks to be able to snap in and fix it, so but when I do, I think I'll wear it like that as well, because I love having the knife in the small of my back like that. I compare this knife to my mainstay, which is the Falcon Even F1, and they're actually quite, I mean, apart from being obviously different in certain ways, they're actually quite similar in what they are and what they're intended for. So they're both sort of somewhat understated camp or survival knives that sort of have the, you know, the handles that don't force you into holding them a certain way. They've got the stainless steel, so you don't have to worry about maintenance as much. It's your pretty average drop point shapes, nothing fancy there. The Gerber's about an inch longer blade wise, and it's probably about a ½ inch longer handle wise, so it's the bigger knife. So therefore I guess it probably is better for chopping. When I chopped with this, it was just useless. Like, this thing doesn't chop. Not that I expect it to, but this is probably, if you don't have $200 to spend on an amazing slicer and, you know, carver, that's also a good survival knife. $100 on this, you know what, it's probably about even. And I didn't think I'd say that, because when you sink $200 into a knife, you usually try and convince yourself that regardless, it's the best thing you're ever going to have. I'm guilty of that, but yeah, the Strongarm definitely gave it a run for its money. Cheaper steel and all that aside. Yeah, can't recommend it enough, really. Of the three knives, the Gerber knives, it's probably the one that I would say just go and buy. I don't think you'd be disappointed. I can't see how you would be. You'd have to have really high expectations of a mid to low priced survival knife to be disappointed, I think. Even still, that tip there, I've just caught my finger on it, it's actually still really, really sharp. So not much else to say about it, really, apart from it has my 2 thumbs up. There they are. And definitely have a look. Thank you very much for watching.